Craig and I, we had at our staff meeting this week, one of the things that he said was he was just so appreciative of the energy that we had compared to last year. It was our second time to be at that event. And we felt like the leadership we got from you guys was just top notch. So we were very grateful for that.
Awesome. I appreciate that, man. We had a great time. It's easy to get excited about a cause like this.
Indeed.
All right.
Well, Mitchell.
First off, guys, thank you so much for being here. There's a lot of different lives on TikTok right now. You chose to be here. We greatly appreciate it. There's no better calls right now. So thank you for sharing some time with us, and stick around. Tap the screen and share that live. Okay. All right. Let's pray. Dear gracious God, Lord, we thank you so much. We thank you for this organization. We thank you for what it's doing, Lord, protecting children around the world. Lord, I pray that you would take this time and that you would give us wisdom, that we use it wise, that we could spread awareness, that we could do your work, Lord. We love you and we praise you for all your many blessings in Jesus' name. Amen.
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 What Child Rescue does, if you guys do not know, you need to go check out the YouTube video they have. It is a heart-tearing video, but it's worth the watch. I can promise you that. It's something that I think does not get enough attention in the United States, what they do. And I don't want to go over what they do because I'm going to let them go over what they do. But again, it's something that definitely you need to go watch that video first and foremost, just to be able to understand where this group is coming from. And I fully support this group. I will tell you that right here, right now, in what they do.
Well, we certainly appreciate your support, and we share in your beliefs when it comes to our children. In my belief, it's the number one asset. When you look at the asset of this country, it's the next generation. And you look at the impact of how we raise our kids. We want them to be raised to be responsible. We want them to be logical. We want them to learn. You know, I coached before, and I've spent a lot of time in scouts with kids. And one thing that I tell them is, I don't really care if you fail. I only care if you don't try, because you're never going to learn anything by winning. Winning doesn't teach us anything. It's the failures. I remember every mistake, every failure that I ever made, that every embarrassing moment. And so that's the thing that is so important with our kids. When we allow this to happen to our most valuable asset, it screws up their lives forever. And the more this happens, this problem builds generationally. And you've got to look at the new generation of children. They eventually are going to be leading this country. They're going to be leading this world. And we want to make sure that they are prepared for that. They're prepared to be, tradesmen or professionals or, the military or whatever role that they choose. They have to have the opportunity to do that well. And like you guys, we're all like-minded. I'm really baffled sometimes when I talk about child trafficking. I'll share a story today. I went to lunch with a very dear friend of mine, and he is, in his circle, he deals in the business world with a lot of people that, a lot of corporations that have deep pockets. So that's been my recent focus. And he said to me, we've been talking for a while, and he goes, I didn't realize that scenario was considered child trafficking. I mean, his thought process was some guy grabbing kids, throwing them in a van, zip tying them, gagging them, and hauling them from point A to point B, and either for labor or for sex. And there are different degrees of trafficking. You can be trafficked by a family member. If you're down and out as a parent, your family member, your dealer, your boss, whoever, you need money, they've got leverage. And it's unfortunate that some parents will allow that to happen. Some family members, they'll look the other way. I hear thousands of stories of people that have been violated, and they try to bring it up as best as they can, but their little brains just didn't know how to say, I was being sexually molested. They just, he was touching me. And the parents and the brothers and sisters and the aunts, and nobody believed them, So it should be heavy on our hearts And I appreciate Newell and Swifty and Mitchell and, the rest of the team that's helping us behind the scenes, NFT and Mayfly. I mean, I appreciate everything that you guys do, because I will tell you this, some of the ladies that I met at the event for the first time, get between them and their kids, or them and your kids, if somebody gets in, they are going to go medieval. And that's what I like. I love the mama bears that they sweet as pie, charm you to death, but you mess with the kids, man, you might meet God himself rather quickly.
I totally agree with you, but one thing I would like to say is I think that we all, as a race here on planet Earth, need to do more for ourselves and for the people around us, because I think we've relied too much on outside sources to do jobs that isn't getting completed. And our whole job here as human beings is to protect each other. Above all things is to protect the babies, So, but the problem is everyone is afraid to look out for a child in fear that they're going to get some kind of label put on them for looking out for a child. So everything is a double-edged sword nowadays. I don't want no one to watch my child, but keep an eye out for them. If you see them getting hurt, you see them getting into something, or you see someone talking to them that doesn't seem right to you, then, put the word out. But nowadays, everyone's too busy with their phones, unfortunately. But that's my take on it. I think we need to do more as human beings to help each other out rather than relying on other people to do it.
That's a great point, Newell. And what's interesting to me is that you hear the phrase, see something, say something. And what happens with that phrase is different people take that differently. And what I tell people all the time, no matter what you do in life, it could be something as simple as answering the phone for business. It could be mowing the lawn. It could be interviewing for a job. After you do it 1 or 2 times, 3 or 4 times, eventually you get a little bit better at it. So if you run into a circumstance where you see something, that your spidey senses go off. And I always say the best thing you do is start asking questions. You could do it in a very tactful manner, be very nice. So if you see a child, one of our producers, which I'll get into our radio and TV show here shortly, he was telling me he was just at the movies not too long ago, like in the last couple of weeks. He was in the restroom. He is about a 50-year-old man. And he was washing up, and there was a 5-year-old in the bathroom at the movie theater by himself. And he thought that was very peculiar. And the child was he was at the urinal, and so the urinal was probably at his rib cage. Well, we all know we got to be below the apex to line up on the urinal. So the kid was struggling. And of course, me as a dad, and some of you that are parents, we go pick our kid up and, help them out. That's what guys do. But certainly you wouldn't do this to a child that you don't know in the bathroom of a public area. It's not acceptable, unfortunately. So he went outside and he was trying to speak to a guy. The guy was on the phone, and the guy was getting annoyed with him. And it turned out it was his kid. And our producer, he's got very good social skills, and he managed the situation very well. And frankly, I wish it would have been a mama there, because it would have been okay for her to rip him an ass than some man. But if you ask the question, hey, is your son in the restroom? Yes, he is. Well, I think he's having problems. You need to go. Maybe you can go help him out. He can't really line up to the urinal. It's make it about the information. And if you think something sketchy is going, ask some questions. Hey, you can even ask the kid before you go out, what's your name? Say, hey, do you have a child in the restroom? Yes, I do. Well, what's his name? And just ask questions. And one of the things I've learned about asking questions, and this is really what I call a salesman's technique. If you sell something or customer service, it's also the same technique. It's the same principle. If you don't know what you're going to do, asking questions allows you to process information, and it allows you to determine what your next step is. And so the more input you get in that situation, if you're asking, if you see a stranger with a child and they don't look like they are compatible, or they're, you can always say, hey, How old's your boy? Not my son, he's my nephew. All right, now you have a piece of information. Hey, what's your name, Johnny? Or, hey, young man, what's your name? Now he won't talk to you. Now, young kids, they may not want to talk. If the adult says, well, his name's Johnny, now you're getting more information. But Spidey sense goes off, and it appears that the adult is not allowing you to communicate with the child. Then you might have a situation. And I also tell people, do not get yourself in a compromised position to be harmed or cause harm, because that's not what I'm advising. I know what I would do. I know what some of the people that I know, how they would handle things. But I always advise people to try to just gather information. So if you think something's going on and this person leaves the building or leaves the location with the child, then you want to get make, model, and license number. You want to get information, and then you can report that information. Okay. So as Newell said, what I like to talk about in the same spirit is we have to be good stewards to our planet. We have to be good They talk about, global warming. I basically talk about, let's be stewards to our planet. And one of the things that I've noticed, I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but the litter problem in Texas, where I'm at, it's getting ridiculous. I lived in California for a year and a half during 2019 and 20. The litter problem there is outrageous. Okay. Just crazy, horrible. It's driving me crazy. And I think this is an indicator of bad things. We need to pick up our trash. We need to be nice to our neighbors. We need to be kind. I've never, when you get pulled over by the police, I've never gotten out a ticket by being an ass. By being nice, I might get out of the ticket. Most likely, I probably deserve the ticket because I like to go a little over the speed limit.
But that's called accountability. Some things a lot of people don't have anymore is the accountability to say that they were wrong, maybe say that they did wrong. And one of the things I would like to say, we have 108 amazing people in here that are, I think, thirsting for knowledge on what you do. And my thing for those 108, 109 people that are in here now is inform yourself. Get the information you need. There are websites about child trafficking to where it will give you information on how to maybe spot something that you wouldn't have noticed before. On my page, on my bio, I have a link to Truckers Against Trafficking. I am a trucker. And it is a huge thing that in 2015, I believe, they actually made it mandatory for all companies to have all their drivers go through this. But it's certain things that you guys may see at a rest area on your travels somewhere. If you're going on vacation and you happen to see some of this stuff that just doesn't sit right with you, or it just seems a little odd, or children that are out a little too late, for your opinion, it might be out a little too late with no parents around, coming up and asking you strange questions or anything like that. Looking out for signs like that will also help to educate yourself on what you could be looking for to maybe stop something like this. Again, I wouldn't say, as he said, don't get yourself fully involved to where you could be harmed or you could harm somebody, if at all possible. But there are signs that are proven to show where a lot of this is taking place is in truck stops, your normal rest areas, and often places that are not widely used by the general public. Again, they're trying to keep it under wraps. So that's something, like I said, if you guys would definitely go in and check their YouTube link in here. You guys have it on your bio, right? It's on your bio. That Contraland on theirs, again, guys, it is a heartbreaking watch, but it's worth every minute of it. The link on my page for Truckers Against Trafficking, the video is right there at the top of the page. You will see how some people got pulled into this. It wasn't by their choice. Some people, it was a choice, but they didn't realize what choice they were making. And I would say definitely inform yourselves on this topic, the trafficking topic, and you will see how deep this actually goes. And it's very crazy to think about. Our children nowadays are the ones probably in the most danger from anything else.
I agree with that. And we're in a new age, everyone. Right now is a good time to also start taking notes about how we can keep our eye out on children on the internet. Because this is where all the children are now. They're on TikTok. And I try to provide a spot and a place when I go live where I keep in mind that children may come in there. And I personally try to make it cool for young people to come in and go, oh, wow, I like watching this battle. But they're not getting any kind of information that I wouldn't want my kids to get. So just remember that too, y'all. A lot of these kids, they have access to TikTok. They come in, they like to watch the battles because they see the cool GIFs going across the screen. So like I said, I think we also could work together in trying to figure out a good way to be able to keep an eye on the kids on the internet as well. That's where they're living at today.
Yeah, there's a really good video that Craig's posted where it shows the front door of a house opening and just probably a dozen men of different flavors, different dress, different socio-economic background. And they're walking through the house and the family's in there. They don't see them. And they go up the stairs into a bedroom where a kid is on his phone in front of a keyboard. And it's illustrating how these pedophiles are in your child's room. And there are a lot of tools. I do know that some of the wireless router companies, they offer some, like Netgear offers a suite of very easy in their latest generation where you can block websites or specific content that you don't have to be a computer genius to use. It's all on an app on your phone. So I do recommend that. This isn't necessarily an endorsement for that product brand, but it's something that you should. A lot of people don't know that that's available. They skip that when they set it up, or they have somebody set it up for them, and they don't know that it's there.
So I hear two things when I'm talking about child trafficking to people. I get two responses. I get A, they had no idea it was such an epidemic. They had no idea it was such a money-making industry, which is absolutely disgusting. And they didn't realize the evil was there. Or B, I hear people say, oh, yeah, I know, but I mean, what do we do about it? The elites are in charge or whatever. There's nothing we can do. So I want to touch base on that, too. There is something we can do. And, I don't know if it was Craig or who posted it, but two things I want to talk about is one, there was a video circling the internet where a gentleman had a baby. Well, he had the car seat. There was no baby in it. It was set up to look like there was a baby in it. And he's sitting in a crowded place. He sits the baby on the table, and then he takes a seat facing the opposite direction. This guy in a hoodie, it was all set up, obviously. This guy in a hoodie pulls his hoodie, comes over and grabs the car seat and takes off with it. And you can see the video in the background showing all these different people watching this happen. And they just continue to sip their coffee like it's just another day. That just shows you, A, the observations people are taking, right? And B, the level of where our society is at. Spreading awareness, that's not okay. If we see something like that, guys, we have to do something. It's like Noel said, I believe it's an obligation of ours, right? Our number one obligation is to keep our children safe. When we see something like that, it's time to man up and act, or woman up, right? And act and do something. And second off, obviously, I come from a law enforcement background. I did 13 years in law enforcement, so I was aware to an extent. But getting plugged in and getting educated has taken my knowledge about this to a whole nother level. And I didn't know nothing in comparison to what I know now after getting plugged in with Veterans for Child Rescue. And I can tell you this. I used to be the type of guy who would never let my kid go to the bathroom by himself. But if I could see the door and I'm sitting right next to the door, yeah, go ahead. I'm standing right here. I'm watching the door. I don't even do that anymore. And now I'm to the point to where I see kids. Me and my wife were at the movie theaters last couple weeks ago, and she's in the bathroom, and there's 2 or 3 little girls in there in the bathroom by themselves. It blows my mind. But before, I would have thought, wow, that's ridiculous. Why would a parent do that? And then I would have gone about my business. And I'm not proud of that, but I just wasn't thinking the way that I am thinking now because I'm more educated. So now when we're in those positions, me and my wife will stay in the bathroom until that kid leaves, right? Do your part. And if parents aren't going to watch over their kids, we have to step up and watch over them for them. All right. That's just how it is. So being here, guys, getting plugged in and getting educated and spreading awareness, you are making an impact. I promise you. So don't ever get to the point to where you feel like you're not doing anything, because you are. You really, really are.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we have on our website, if you go to v4cr.org or veterans4childrescue.org, but v4cr is easier. We have a section on tools and education, the same as Swifty. He has his own version of his tools that he's put together. Both sites are great. Study these. And I would have a conversation with your significant other or a friend about these things. Just have a general chat. The Knights of the Round Table, they used to call it sharpening their swords. They would sit around the round table and they would just they call it sharpening their swords, but it was a way that they would practice in sharpening their skills. And going back to what I said before, the first time you encounter a situation and you deal with it, it's very likely you might deal with it that as well as you feel like you should have. We're our own worst critic. At least I am, for me. So I find that talking about these things helps you kind of reconcile your strategy in the event that it happens. When you first encounter something, all of a sudden your radar is going off. Maybe your heart rate goes up, your blood pressure goes up, you get a little bit of adrenaline, and then you're trying to go 90 miles an hour. It's like you're trying to get to the end of that process. I always say take a deep breath, relax. As long as there's no imminent threat, you can execute your plan. And you'll learn over time. So by talking about these things with your friends or your significant other, and even your kids, my kids, when I walk in the parking lot, my kids, I look at them sometimes and they get right behind me and they'll put their hand on my belt. And I'll have my hand just to feel them because I know where they're at. Because I've had threats approach me in the parking lot. Now, they're not looking at the guy in front of me. They're looking around. And I'm looking around. Because a lot of you may not be aware of this, but it's very often that somebody comes to the parking lot and you have somebody and ask you to borrow your phone, or they've got a flat tire. In the meantime, somebody's sneaking up behind you to grab your wallet or your car keys because you're being distracted. So I've got my kids trained. When I give them the look, they know what to do. And they know, if they're holding onto my belt, what I'm looking for is is there a threat? Where is the threat? And what's my exit strategy? Okay. And Mitchell, you're in law enforcement, you've been trained on these type of things. A lot of people think that people want to engage in an event like that. My goal is the safety of my family and friends. And even if there's a stranger, if I thought a stranger was in danger, I would probably bark out an order, grab my belt, move left, move. If it really got out of hand, I would start barking out commands. It's like doing a dance. So not had a situation where I've had to get that heavy on it. I've been in situations where I've had to have my kids get behind me. So that I've got down pat. But we kind of practice that. So I believe that, like the Knights of the Round Table, we should be sharpening our swords. And it also gives you something interesting to talk about. I mean, at this stage of my life, sometimes I run out of stuff to talk about. I think I've talked everything. You can't talk about politics. It's all the same crap. So anyway, Newell, you're being quiet.
I'm listening, man. I'm just taking in the information. But back to what I said before, you guys. I know it's taboo nowadays for people to look out after kids because of in fear of what people may think. But I would rather you question what my intentions are rather than my lack of action. So I'm going to keep an eye on people's kids. And if someone thinks that I'm being a little too lookish, I would rather question me about why I'm doing it and give me the opportunity to explain rather than something happening and them say, why was you just standing there watching? So don't worry about it. I would rather them question what my intentions were rather than my lack of action. Again, it takes all of us, you guys. Education, keeping
right.
an eye on participation, all of it.
Absolutely right. And yeah, that's another thing. It's a great point. Have a conversation with somebody, chew the fat and say, okay, if this happened and somebody starts grilling me, well, Mr. So-and-so, by the way, what's your name? Okay, John, I noticed that this child was by himself. I am a parent. I am an uncle. I am a teacher, whatever. And I was concerned of the circumstance of him being where he was at by himself. And so I was observing from a distance, ensuring the safety of this child. I'm not going to tell anybody how to be a parent. It's not, but I can tell you, I would never let my child on the playground without adult supervision, in the bathroom or whatever. I would kind of put that information out the best I can. If they got ugly with me, I just say, that may be your position. I didn't mean any harm, but bottom line is I was watching over your child, making sure that they were safe. And if they go, I'm going to call the police, I said, why don't you do that? Let's call the police. I'd love to have a discussion. I would welcome the police to come.
Yep.
Okay. Because, Mitchell, he's probably been in situations where people called the police and they were really surprised when they were the ones that were the bad guys.
It's a tough thought to think about, but again, for everybody in this room, it's going to hit really, really close to home when you say this. I mean, when you are worried about what someone's going to think about you when you're trying to protect a child, just think in the back of your mind, what if it's your child? What if your child's taken from you? You have no help to get that child back. And what that child's going to have to go through or has to go through because of why it was taken. I mean, he's hit the point of the slave sex rings for children. I mean, does anybody ever say, "Oh, I want this to happen to my child"? No. And if you do, you're vile. I'm sorry. I will say that just like this. You are vile. And if you start thinking of it that way, when you start understanding if you're in that public place or, like you said, in a movie theater or even at a gas station and you see someone trying to forcefully take a child out of a car or dragging a child down the road by their arm or something like that. And that child's trying to get away. There's normally something wrong. I understand that, yes, there are children out there that are just trying to get away from their parents. But it's easier for me to go up and ask that person, hey, is everything okay? And try to find out from, not only, like you said, information from the person and or the child, than it is to look back and say, hey, I seen that picture on the wall at Walmart. I seen that kid. I seen that child. I had a chance to ask or try to do something and I didn't do it. Because again, that is someone's child. That is someone, it could be a family member's, it could be yours. It can hit that close to home, guys. And it's terrible to even think about anything like that would go on. We see videos, we see infomercials, we see commercials every single day about starving children in other countries. How many videos do you see a day? How many commercials do you see a day? How much of this media is put out there about the trafficking of children?
It's because they're profiting from it.
Why don't you see it? That should be one of the top things that should be out there. Hey guys, let's do what we can to watch this, because again, that child that's being trafficked, they could be starved, they could be beaten, they could be drugged, they could be going a whole lot worse in life. And a lot of times when they're done with that child, they're worse off. Whether they're alive or unalive, they are worse off because they live with that for the rest of their lives. It's absolutely terrible to think about. I consider myself to be a very upbeat, positive person. But when it comes to topics like this, it's a very, very hard topic, because I would never be able to forgive myself if I let a child that I felt like was in danger or even question that find their picture somewhere that I didn't want to see it, whether it was on a wall or on I hate to say a milk carton, but a milk carton. I couldn't. And I don't know anybody in here that if they could say, oh, hey, it is what it is at that point in time, I'll say, follow me right now, because I don't want that in my life. I would like to do everything I could in my power to help any child I could. And that's my stance on it.
Yeah, where I moved away from, there was a guy down the street. His name was Chapman, and he always stood out by his fence and watched all the kids in the neighborhood. And then Chapman got a name. I'm pretty sure you all can make your imagination up what kind of name he was given, because he always sat out there against the fence and watched the kids. Now, some of us knew who Chapman was because he had been living in the neighborhood for quite a lot of years. So we knew he was harmless, but there was some people that didn't, and they always made fun of him or said something bad about him because he watched the kids. Well, one day, one of the kids took off. He had ran away, and now it became Chapman's fault. And they accused him first of him missing, but then they accused him of not knowing where the kid was because he was always out there watching. Well, the one time he wasn't watching because he was afraid someone was going to holler at him, he had no clue where the kid went. So again, I would rather someone accuse me of what my intentions are rather than my actions.
Me too. And I know some of our listeners and viewers, in the past, we've listened to stories that they experienced. I have a family member whose child was being violated by a close friend. And that person died, the violator, the bad guy, he died. And at the funeral, it came out that he had been molesting. And, it still causes people problems in the family. So it wears for a lifetime. You cannot, it's hard to really imagine that type of feeling that you could have done something and you didn't do something, whether it's your child or somebody else. It'll haunt you, and it should haunt you. It should absolutely haunt. Anybody that ignores or doesn't do something, it should haunt them. We need to be responsible as a community, as a society, for the little ones.
Yep. I've had accounts on here because of the amount of followers that I've got. I've actually had people send me Instagram messages with my house and tell me what they would come and do to my kids and make me watch. And I mean, it's disgusting. And then when you report it, they just go make another account and come back and say it again. So then it puts me on high alert. I'm always watching my kids now, which I always did. But now when they go outside, I'm like helicopter parenting. It's incredible.
Yeah,
it's a new day and age for parents. And I see this. I mean, I'm older generation, of course, I guess I could say. But it's a new day and age for parenting where, we want our child to have better than we had. We want them to have more than we had, so we may be a little more lenient on them. That new phone that they wanted, we got them. But all the time not realizing that even the way you're doing that, not being as strict on your children or as, I don't want to say, watching over them as much, letting the television and or the internet raise your children for you. It's become so different parenting now. It's actually gotten easier for people to prey on children. And it's absolutely ridiculous to see how easy it can be for someone to prey on children. I'm going to stress this as many times as I can. The link in this bio up here, Child Rescue's bio to Contraland, the sting that they put together just to see how easy it was for people because of the internet to prey on innocent children. And as parents nowadays, I mean, I would ask everybody to take the time to sit down with your children and explain to them, you know, it's a hard conversation to have with them, but explain to them like the bad points of the internet, because this will help them gain knowledge onto what to look for and what not to look for. And it would also help them to make a decision on that as well. And you want your child to respect that decision, and you be able to respect every decision your child makes. We're going to let our children fail, but this is one place you don't ever want them to fail at. This is one place that you want to lift them up every single time. This is one place that you want to make sure that you have your arms around them no matter what, because it only takes that one
Swifty,
time that they're ripped from your arms.
That's a great point. And let me give you a vantage point as a parent to help you with that. You see all this? This is from kids. Okay? My kids have given me a lot of grief. So any opportunity I get to make them feel uncomfortable, and this is a great topic, I take advantage of it. I relish in it because, you know, they're giving me grief all the time. So this is the way I dish it out. When you're talking to a teenage girl about a sexual predator, they are squirming, but they're listening. You know, you say, hey, sit back down. We're going to talk about this. And I'm going to explain to you what happens when one of your friends go missing or a young girl goes missing. We watched a movie. We had on our radio show, and I encourage you, we have a radio show called Defending Our Children. It's on AM, FM, 247 network, which you can get on, if you have a paid subscription to Apple Music, you just search AM, FM 247, or it's free on TuneIn. And we had, we're on Friday nights at 7, and it's rebroadcasted on Saturday. But if you go somewhere, there's a link. If you go to amfm247.com, you can find our page with all of our archives. Anyway, I'm getting old because I lost my train of thought where I originally was heading. Oh, we had, golly, I've been kicked in the head so many times. But we have a lot of experts that talk about these sort of things. Grooming. We have experts that infiltrated NAMBLA. We have Jaco Booyens. Jaco Booyens, he's from South Africa, played, he was a pro athlete. He became an American citizen. He's a filmmaker. And he has a movie called 8 Days. And I really encourage you, it's free on Amazon Prime. This is a great movie. Now, when you read the reviews are critical. They talk that the acting is poor. Well, I will tell you this. If you look at the editing and the videography, I think they did a poor job of doing the editing, because they're creating these long pauses. They're creating these weird feelings between the characters that make the acting worse than it is. But the young girl basically is just a 16-year-old girl that gets roofied at a party, and I'm not going to ruin it, but I can assure you that it's no ride at Disneyland after that. But I would watch this with your kids, because you will be absolutely shocked at the games. I mean, there's so many different scenarios of snatching kids. Okay, there's just an unlimited amount of scenarios. And what happens is when you look at these scenarios, it makes you think, and you can share this with your kids, and you need to talk to them on how to manage these situations. Because when your friends are saying, let's go to this party, and your parents said no, and you know there's going to be alcohol, and you know it's going to be older boys and older girls. It happened. Maybe you're in high school and it's a college party. Not a lot of good stuff's going to happen. Okay, nothing you're going to be proud of. I joke all the time. The greatest warning sign that a guy could ever have, if we were younger, if somebody said, "Hold on, let me get my camera," I probably would have less broken bones and scars on this body. You know, if I'd have grown up with a GoPro, I probably wouldn't be here. But the same thing goes. I mean, I have a friend that just retired about a couple of years ago, was the vice principal of a pretty large high school. And every week, once a week, he had a set of parents in or two sets of parents, because they caught somebody having sex in the bathroom or in the parking lot. And this was a problem because sex in public it's a crime in Texas. And so I was shocked when he was telling me this, because I made a joke and said, hey, well, what's the worst thing that you have to deal with? And he starts telling me these stories. Those are the things you should talk to your kids about. And when my son, I've got a 32-year-old son, when he turned 18, or even when he was 16, when he first got his phone, I explained to him, this phone that right here, this isn't your phone. This is my phone. Okay. So if your little girlfriend, or if you get the idea to take pictures that you're not old enough to be doing, that's my problem. That's a felony for me. Okay. You think you're being cutesy, you think you're being cool. That's not going to happen in this household. And my son was very smart. He listened to me. He was very understanding. But there are things like that go on with your kids that is happening in their bubble that they're not aware of. They just think they're being cool.
And one point, I would like to bring up a little bit too is I know when people think of child sex trafficking, 99% of the time, what do you think? It's a young woman. But it's not, guys. I mean, there are boys that are taken just as quickly as young women. And there are whole groups out there, literally groups that look for young boys. It's sickening to think about in any circumstance. And I mean any circumstance. But, don't close your mind off to think that, oh, this wouldn't happen to my son, or this wouldn't happen to my nephew or my neighbor's son. Yeah, Mayfly said it right there. 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys. So, I mean, this is more. Yeah, this is more of a epidemic than the COVID, and I'm just going to throw that out there just like that, because it's
absolutely
something that I would say 99% of the time is unrecoverable for the victim.
Yeah. You don't ever hear a child saying, I survived this and look at how great I'm doing now. Very rarely. It's not impossible, but very rarely.
Very rarely. What about how they're making it seem, I don't want to say normalize. Yeah, they are. They're basically normalizing it here in this country too. It's this person has a sickness, like they've got cancer or something. It's, that's what bothers me. Like it's a sickness, all right. It's a sickness, but it's not in the way people are trying to make it sound nowadays.
Well, if you want to educate yourself, if you want knowledge and better understanding of good information, you can go study up on 2 people. Dr. Alfred Kinsey. He was a pedophile. He was a sadomasochist. He was what I call he was an evil guy, and he ran experiments on children as young boys as young as 15 months old. It's documented that he would see how many orgasms he could call a 15-month-old boy to have in a 24-hour period. And in essence, when you look at NAMBLA, and if you look at Kinsey and what he was trying to do, they're trying to remove the age of consent for somebody to have sex. Now, keep in mind, when you look at your child, if you have a 10-year-old child who was riding his bicycle and he crashed his bicycle into the neighbor's car and scratched the child up, and then the neighbor took him to court and he had to represent himself, his brain isn't wired like that. He's not ready to have that type of a conversation. So how is he ready to have a conversation or an interaction that is as intimate as sex? That, frankly, even some adults aren't ready for that. But no, and that's what people don't understand, is that when you hear some of the stories, the young man or the young woman is trying to cry out and say, I don't want to go over to Uncle Billy's house, or I don't want to go to this babysitter's house. I don't like them. They're no fun. Well, to them, like them, no fun is they're touching my privates, but they don't know how to say that because talking about body parts in our society can be taboo. And, so there's confusion in the language. And it's not until you get to a certain point where you truly understand how to advocate for yourself. So, it's go study Dr. Kinsey. And then there's on our website and on our documentary in Contraland, we have a lovely woman, Dr. Judith Reisman, and she spent a lifetime studying Kinsey and bringing his evil to the light. And in her last year, she passed away last year, she was working on a piece that she showed where the CIA was funding his research. Now, I want you to think about that for a minute, okay? The CIA was funding this research. So if I came to your house, any one of the listeners on here, and I was knocking on the door and say, look, I'm going to take your tax dollars and I'm going to funnel it to the CIA, and we're going to use it to see what the effects of sexualization of children are. It's a study. It's a scientific study. When is this okay? Under what circumstances is this okay? It's not okay. So I urge you to go read up on that. A lot of our, there are a lot of the loved political leaders, locally, state, and federal, that you may support. They're probably not aware of this.
So did these parents that doctor was doing the test on, did they know about this test?
I don't know. I'm currently in the process of educating myself in that on those things. I was aware of it from the documentary, and I've read stuff on his website. My problem is, this is me being weird. I wanted to order his book, read it. I don't want to order his book because I don't want it in my history of an Amazon purchase that I bought a book from Dr. Kinsey.
Yeah, right.
It's a double-edged sword.
Majority of them were orphan children. Okay.
I mean, there's certain topics that we get into, and I'll hop over to my computer and I'm like, wait a minute, I'm not going to do a search on my computer for that. Informationally, I'm trying to understand, but then I stop for a minute. I don't know. I'm maybe being paranoid. I can tell you this much. I will say something about something, and the next thing I know, I'm getting ads for that something. And it'll be something as, this happened last year. I was talking about a friend of mine, they passed away, and all of a sudden I'm getting advertisements for urns, for ashes.
Hold up. There's a mind reading app for Domino's right now, you guys. I don't know if you guys know this or not, but we seen the commercial last night. It said, introducing the mind reading app for Domino's. We will send you the pizza you want. Now, go look at that one. I don't listen. You talk about listening to you. I'm talking about them reading the minds now.
Well, I wish I could get the mind reading app for the lottery tickets. That's what I would. Then we'd have a lot of money to go after a lot more bad guys.
Right. I do need to know, is there a place that people can go so they can donate to this cause? And
there is. I mean, of course, for Vets for Child Rescue, you can go to our website, and we have various things that you can do. We have tools. We have lots of information on what we're doing, what we have to offer. We've got apps that you need to be on the lookout for your kids not to be using. And we do take donations. And I wanted to talk about a couple of things. We're running out of runway because I can talk all night. But I wanted to kind of talk about a couple of things. First topic is investigations. We do a lot of investigations. Lately, a lot of what we've been doing has been what I call been overt. It's been we can't really talk about it. And one thing that we have to abide by is whoever we're working with, whether it's private or if it's a government, state, local, or federal organization, we honor their rules of engagement. But we have a lot of things going on. As a matter of fact, I actually have a couple of, and I didn't bring them up, but we actually, in a very short period of time, we located or we stopped a kid on eBay. It was literally, this kid was, for picture of him said something like new model kid, slightly used for sale, with some crazy price on it. And we jumped right on it, gathered as much intel on all the data off of their server, contacted eBay security team. They were super, they jumped right on it. So, we get reports of this stuff. I don't remember who found that, but somebody in our circle found that, and they were, all of a sudden our phones were blowing up. And, my first thought was, is this a joke? But here's the kicker. We're bidding on him. So whether or not it was a joke, they're the other side of that coin, not a joke. So, how did that one slip past the goalie? And we could say good, bad, or indifferent things about big tech, but I can tell you that they were not happy about that at all. And they were Johnny on the spot, and they were very cooperative. I mean, didn't wait for us. They were, in essence, very helpful. So we're very grateful for that. So we get a lot of leads through our website and through phone calls and through connections. We get a lot of leads that don't lead anywhere. It's some of the leads that we get are things that we aren't able to work. Our mission is for the kids. Our mission is in the United States. Now, I will tell you this, over the weekend, and I wasn't aware of this, but I got a phone call from Craig. I can't really get into the details, but there were 5, there's something going down in Ecuador. I don't even know if it's a coup or if it's something really bad. And there were 5 college kids that were stuck there in a bad way. And so in essence, we rallied all of our resources and contacts, and we had them, it took 2 helicopter flights to move them to a place where they could catch a flight home. And I don't know how long they were supposed to be there. All I got was this frantic call from Craig. I actually was on vacation. I was on the beach, so my phone lights up. So I took the call. He actually sent me a voice message, and I called him back immediately. He was asking me, some questions. We were, just doing our thing. And so there was that. And hopefully he was going to speak to the parents to see if we can reveal. That's not our wheelhouse. That wasn't anything that took any of our resources. That was just something that men and women do because it's the right thing to do. And Craig has so many contacts, and his network, his intelligence network, it was, here, I'm going to call this guy. I'm going to call this guy. Okay. Who do you know in Ecuador? Okay. Who do you know in Panama? Who has an airplane? Who has a helicopter? Things like that. Are they there now? Is there, how quickly can they have a bird in the air? You just stuff like that these guys know what to ask. So in essence, it was something that as parents, as a community, that we hopped on. So one of the other things that we're working on now is Defending Our Children radio show. And we will also be following up with a podcast. We haven't started that yet. We are using Defending Our Children. This is our brand for our radio show, but it's also our brand for our TV show. And this is to promote our TV show. In the middle of July, we're going to be shooting 10 episodes. Okay. It's going to be a live studio broadcast, or a live studio audience, not broadcast, but live studio audience, 30-minute show, kind of like Dr. Oz with a co-host. So it'll be Craig, Sawyer, and I'm happy to announce we are going to have a lovely, sweet, strong patriot. Her name is Anna Paulina Luna. She was served time in the Air Force, met her husband in the Air Force, and now she's running for Congress. Our goal is to have the show shot in probably the 2nd to 3rd week of July. Then they're going to spend the rest of the summer getting it prepared. They call that in the can. We actually have networks that they are talking with our producer is a gentleman by the name of Stephen O'Connor. He is the nephew of Carol O'Connor, which was the primary character on All in the Family. He is a wonderful person, and he's been very helpful. I feel blessed. I mean, we feel blessed that this guy has just been nothing but very insightful, very helpful, and he's a good, strong, God-fearing man. So excited about that. So end of October, it's going to be aired. Hopefully, right before that, I'll know where, and I will be out promoting it. Counter-trafficking operations. We're working on a lot of stuff. And I will implore you, any of you that have any relationships in your county or your locale, and there's two things that we would look for as a police, what I call a police chief, a sheriff, the decision maker of the police force or the LEO, and a prosecutor that will prosecute. If you have confirmation that those two are willing to step up and do what we have hired them to do, and if you want to introduce Craig to them, we'll be happy to do a Zoom call. Now, I implore you, get them to watch Contraland first. And one thing that's really important is that our crew, they are the highest trained spec ops guys out there, okay? And what they do is, I tell law enforcement, they do risk management, all right? They're not Rambos. They manage risk. And what does that mean? That means that we execute a plan, whatever plan that we agree upon. We do it safely. We do it quietly. We do it swiftly. And Mitchell is in law enforcement, so he truly understands how important that is. As a law enforcement officer, Mitchell, aren't you happy not to fire your weapon on
Absolutely.
duty?
Yeah, that's the goal.
Yeah, that's the goal. It's a tool if you have to use it, right?
Right. And we're working here locally with our law enforcement, with the sheriff here. So we're hoping to be able to get something done with our sheriff here. He seems very willing, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah. It's a process, and we're happy to do that. But if for any reason you ascertain those, get them to watch Contraland. You can reach me on info@vets4childrescue.org. I'll see those emails. Say, hey, I've got a law enforcement agency that wants you to come play in their sandbox, and give me the details, and we'll be very grateful. Now, do not get your feelings hurt if we don't share with you details of what we're going to do, and if we don't share with you when we're going to do it. And don't be upset. If
they say the best plans to keep to yourself, because the more you let it out, the more people can dissuade you from your plans.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah.
Hey, so I just want to say I really appreciate you guys letting me have a moment in the box. I really agree with everything you guys are doing, but I have to go to bed because I have to be up early to drive in the morning. So,
are you on the East Coast?
I am on the East Coast. I am in Charleston, South Carolina. So,
love it there.
I'm up at 4 every morning. Now, if it was on a Saturday night, I could probably stay up a little later, but I try to be safe as much as I can in driving. Much love to y'all. Much love to everybody in here. Again, I will say again, everybody in here, 47 amazing people still in here. Go check out Contraland on his bio. If you want more information about Truckers Against Trafficking, go check it out on my bio. I do have the link on my bio. You guys, educate yourself. The best thing you can do is educate yourself first. After that, decisions are a lot easier to make. Much love to you guys. I appreciate you guys having me in. I hope you all have an amazing evening.
Swifty, we appreciate you coming in, and you are a hero. You're an unsung hero because you are the lifeblood of this country. People do not realize how important the truckers are, and how everything you look around your house, everything you got, somebody like you brought it there, and we thank you for that.
Much love, guys. You have a great evening.
Thank you, Swifty. Thank you for coming in, brother. Thank you to the whole DMF family for joining this.
I will tell you that we are backed up. We've got a lot of requests coming in through the website, and we can only move so fast. I've actually gotten some emails that say, hey, you're not responding. I don't mean to do that, but we're a small team, and we are moving as fast as we possibly can, and just bear with us and be patient. There's some very specific things we're looking for that we may ask from some of you. If we look at your skill set, and we might find something that we would like you to participate in. And so there will be details on those as needed.
Yeah, and I can kind of go over a little bit of the volunteer kind of the structure that we started up. Our intro level volunteer, and so things that we ask people, if they want to become a volunteer, is watch Contraland, watch 4 of our live replays if you can. That's in our Discord. It's underneath training videos. Then also go into become a volunteer room. You can go in there and kind of give us a little brief detail about you, what your involvement is, what you would like to see yourself doing in our organization. And what I will do is I will pull that information and talk to you one-on-one. Get educated, float around the Discord rooms, see what knowledge you can gain, ask questions, because knowledge is power. And spend some time and volunteer to help respond in the comments, interact with people. This helps us out tremendously and allows us to see what people are saying. Once you feel comfortable, and as this is a work at your own type pace, volunteering, get out and interact with your own communities, because you are now a recruiter for Vets for Child Rescue. That's some of the stuff that the basic intro level, just gaining the knowledge to go out there and use those tools in the public and help educating people that are around you, your family, your friends, everything. So that's all I wanted to say on that. And carry on, Forrest. I'm sorry.
So kind of give you a little bit of history, because somebody popped up a question, and I'm going to try to answer this the best as I can. I came on board. I was a board member for several years, and I came on board in September. I've spent the last 6 months. What a lot of people don't understand about a 501c3 or a nonprofit organization is that we have to go through, we had to do a 3-year audit for 22 different states, and the remainder of the states, it had to be a 1-year audit. So the team that was responsible for that, the reason I came in was because they left. So I didn't know where any of their data was, didn't know where any of their files, didn't know any of that. And so I have been dealing with our audit, did very well in our audit, and it was a necessary evil. So I'm finished with that. So now I'm trying to catch up, working on the strategy for the organization. While this was going on, I was able to get us a TV show, get us a radio show. And this is a blessing, because I can tell you, my background is banking. Okay. I grew up with Craig Sawyer. We were childhood friends. I was in college. He got out of the Marines. I was playing football at University of Houston, and he comes to me and he says, "I'm thinking about going in the military." So I've never been in the military, but I tell people my trajectory. He and I have been friends for lifelong. And so when he asked me to come over and take over the organization, at that time, it wasn't in my, I wasn't thinking about it. I was helping out the organization as a board member. I was doing a lot of work. So now I'm thinking about our short-term and long-term strategy, and we're hammering that out. And so we have a lot of volunteers that are already in the system. And the one thing that I did realize as a board member was we had a lot of volunteers that some weren't participating. I don't know why they weren't participating. It could be that they signed up and they were expecting to do X, but only Y was available. It could be that they realized they didn't have the bandwidth. I mean, life gets in the way. So we're really looking at that. But again, we have, we're limited. I mean, we're not when you're a not-for-profit, the nice thing about a profit business is that you could set goals of revenue, and that based upon that revenue, you can put it back into the organization, invest it back in to create more revenue opportunity. we get donations, and we're very grateful for the donations. And I'm, one of my responsibilities, along with Craig's, is to make sure we spend that money the best that we possibly can. And I spend the money like it's mine. I am very tight with money. There's some things that we're wanting to do. And I'll give you an example. We do production work for TV and radio and movies. And so my goal is, instead of paying producers and cameramen, buying equipment and getting volunteers that have that skill set. So for me, I know how to run a camera. I've been a photographer all my life. I started when there was film, which most people I know now don't know what film is. But so that's one area. A couple other areas would be documentation. Being from the banking background, I want to document a lot of things. I want to document processes, and analysis. I'm looking to build a investigative analysis team, because we're getting so many leads for opportunities that we need to work. And I have an investigative team, but they're overwhelmed. And so Tyler right now is helping me build that team. And I'm very grateful. Tyler's doing a bang up job at doing that. So there are some specific things. And look, this is if we ask you if you want to do something, and if it's not in your heart to do it, or if you don't have the bandwidth, it's okay to say no. But I have gotten, when we were in Dallas, and Mitchell and Mandy and Brian and Tyler, we had Justin, I had 5 volunteers. Tell me if I'm missing anybody, Tyler. I apologize if I am. These were volunteers. They paid to come out to Dallas on their own dime and gave me 110% for 24/7 while they were there. You couldn't have paid somebody for better support. And that really, Craig and I, we've talked for an hour about that, how great, and it just made him happy, made me happy, and very grateful. And it's because everybody understands how important this is. And it's important to them. So those are some things that we're working on the volunteer side. It's moving slow, but I think it's going to be picking up real quick, because we're kind of getting our sea legs on that. And Tyler is back and forth, and he's networking and understanding what our needs are. And I tell you, if I say, Tyler, I need somebody that can do this, he says, I know a guy. And it may not be the right guy, but it's a start. Okay. Or I know a gal. So anyway, we're going to build these teams to help broaden our abilities. And, in essence, we want to, one thing that we have is we've got some availability, some really incredible technology that we're not using or haven't had the opportunity to use, because we haven't had a scenario that would afford us that. And I won't get into those technologies, but it's some cool stuff. It's, Jason Bourne, James Bond type technology. But these are tools that we can use to build a case, to ensure the chain of evidence. So the prosecution will have a chance of putting pedophiles and traffickers in jail. And that's what we want to do. So got a lot of stuff doing that, but I've got to get the fundamentals. I'm working on fundamentals and building the team to help me do that. Looking at my notes, I think I've pretty much, Tyler, I've covered everything we had on the notes that we put together.
Yeah, let me hop in here real quick. I see a couple questions. For the question, what about us? Been a volunteer for the last few years, gone through background checks. Anyone that's gone through those types of stuff, get with me after this. I'll be on the child rescue account, but get into our Discord. Yeah, get into our Discord, and you can message me directly, and we can get on that and get you going again. So a lot of things have changed recently, so I'm just trying to figure out where everyone's at and figure out what spot we can put everyone. Also, donations. We do accept donations. If you go into the child rescue or any of our bios, into the link tree, you can go to Tiltify, and that's a way you can donate there. Then it's also tracked there, so you can actually see the little meter going. That's what we're going to try to use for getting camera equipment and stuff like that. You can also donate directly on the website, v4cr.org. You also, can you let Lycos in? And
Okay.
And he wanted to say some stuff real quick.
I don't see him. Oh, yeah. I'm sorry.
You're fine.
You should have said Mr. Bratt, Lycos.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. So let me get a couple little things out.
Sorry,
Lycos. I want to mention this.
Good, you're good.
I wanted to mention this. This happened to one of our partners that's on TikTok. We got to be careful about cybersecurity and what we report and how we act upon stuff. We have to be smarter and use the appropriate channels that we can. A couple weeks ago, there was a trafficking ring that was on Discord, and it kind of blew up here on TikTok when a couple people made some videos about it. Some creator, I don't know who it was, went out and tried as hard as they could to bring awareness to these people. That's really good, if you're going after the P3DOs, whatever they call it, so we don't get bananaed. That's really good for that, but not for trafficking. If you're talking about trafficking, you have to be careful about that on how you share that information. Because if you put it on a video, then everyone can see it, and so can they. And if they see that they're being compromised, they're going to shut down their whole system and start fresh and new somewhere else. This happened to this big group. I forget what it was called. They got involved. It was OEF IP Conflict and his whole group that was on this. And they had people inside their Discord trying to collect as much information as they can. They were so close to shutting it down, but someone came out and blew a whistle on that, and it hurt the whole operation that they had going on. So what you need to do is, if you see stuff like that, report it to the appropriate channels. You can go to our website that is in the bio, and there's tools and education in there, and that's how you can report stuff like that. So you just got to be cautious of all of our situational surroundings. So I just wanted to mention that, and I did want to say a little bit of thank you. Also, we're going to be there's a few of us that are going to the IGY6 meetup. I know Waylon McMullen. I don't know hardly any of the others, but I'd love to meet them. I want to say thank you for all the supporters, volunteers, and everyone of you in attendance tonight. We couldn't make this possible without you. Those who want to know more and get involved, I highly recommend joining our Discord. I say it over and over again. I apologize. This is our hub of information along with our website. Lycos, you want to take it away?
Hey, a few things I wanted to bring up. So we had some questions come up last week, and I wanted to just go over some statistics with you guys. First off, when you was talking about the doctor earlier, most of his victims were orphan children that was handed over to him by the state and by the government, which is very sad. And last week we had a question that kept coming up. Why are there not more Amber Alerts on these children that come missing that become sex trafficked? Because with the statistics, about 50%, which I think the actual number is like 52% of all kids that are in sex trafficking rings have been offered up by their parents, or have been sold by their parents, or have been taken away from their parents by drug dealers and everything else to recoup money that they owe them. So that's why you don't see more Amber Alerts about it. It's very sad, but it is a true fact. And we can't say it enough. This is not just a United States epidemic. This is a worldwide epidemic. And we have to reach out to everybody in the world. And if we can educate even one person and protect one child, that is one more child that we would have protected if we'd done nothing. And if we can reach across the whole globe and reach out to everybody and touch everybody and get this information to them and stop this at ground zero, which is every household, if we can stop it there, then we're already getting ahead of the game.
well.
Like, I really appreciate it. It's great to meet you.
Hey, it's good to meet you too. Absolutely. If in same extension that I give to Tyler, if you need anything, you need assistance with anything, reach out to me. I'm in a law enforcement motorcycle club, which is a non-for-profit. It's 501c3, and I'm the national secretary treasurer, so I know a little bit about that stuff with trying to keep it all straight and everything. So if you need help with that, just let me know. I'm always here, willing to help anybody and everybody, especially with this. This is a great organization, and I have talked to Tyler and Kim
Paperwork.
and Bohan. And yeah, and my motorcycle club nationwide, all of our chapters have decided to jump on board, and all of our benefit rides and everything are going to go to support veterans for child rescue. So
Much appreciated. Much appreciated.
Oh, absolutely.
And if you know, if you get a big enough event, and I don't really know what that is, but get with me, and maybe we could produce a motorcycle, kind of a custom T-shirt for your guys to buy, and kind of a one-time event type deal. That would be something that would be honoring you guys and your efforts. But I rely on Kim and Justin, which Justin is now helping us with our inventory stuff. So
Right.
I would plug you into the right guys for that.
So with that, what I've talked to Tyler and them about is what I would do is I would get with you guys, and we would pre-order the shirts and have them all made, and then we would have them at the ride, have them all paid for and everything, have them at the ride, and then we would sell them at the ride, and all profits we made off of the shirts would go right back to child rescue. Awesome. So that's where we're at on that. And obviously anybody that signs up for the ride or anything like that, that also goes to child rescue. So
well, if you do anything in Texas, in the Houston area, I got a bike. I'll be happy to ride with you guys if you'll let me.
Hey, absolutely. You are always welcome. And that's another thing. Wherever we have our benefit rides, which right now we're Colorado, Arizona. We've got a small group in Texas, but we're building. Mississippi, Arkansas, Louisiana, and Florida. That's where our rides will be. And anybody that's in that area that's with Child Rescue, we will send them an honorary invite to the ride. If they ride, they'll ride with us. They'll ride up front with the leaders of the club and be honored the whole time they're at the ride. So that's another thing that we would do.
Awesome.
It's a great pleasure to be a part of this. And everybody in the room, thank you guys for coming out. Thank you for spending your time in here, listening to what we've got going on and what we're trying to put out there and educating people. Always remember, keep your head on a swivel, keep your eyes open, have great situational awareness, know what's around you, know what's going on, and especially watch kids and even adults. Because you can tell off of adults that are walking around a store or something, you can get a good read on them on what they're trying to do, and just keep an eye on that stuff. I don't recommend approaching them. I would just keep an eye on them, and if you see something going awry, contact law enforcement and let them get there and handle the situation.
Absolutely.
And I'll go ahead, jump out of the box so that way other people can get in the box. It was great meeting you, Forrest. Good to see you, Mitchell. Good to see you, Tyler. And I'll talk to you guys here soon, and I'll be back in the chat watching people, making sure they're not getting out of line.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you.
Craig posted something. It might have been on a story, so maybe it's not there anymore. But it was a link to an interview, and you could tell that the interview was done several years ago. It was an older interview. Probably the most disturbing interview I've ever watched. It was a guy who was a bad guy. I don't know what words were. I forget some of the words we're not allowed to say, but you know what I'm saying. A bad guy who had a history of doing bad things to his stepson, and he would, in the interview, he went into great detail. It was absolutely disturbing of what he had been doing for years to his stepson, and how he had like 400, 500 victims. Some he groomed, and some he just snatched off the street. And he talked about these double and triple lives that he was living. And the one thing that just blew my mind is the kid went to his grandparents, the kid went to his mom, the kid went to law enforcement, the kid went to several different people. And instead of getting help, he was treated like he was a troublemaker. And this bad guy was talking to the kid and telling him, "Hey, look, it doesn't do any good. Don't talk to nobody, because they're gonna consider you a troublemaker. You're just trying to make trouble in the family. So it doesn't even help you." Well, this kid he tried several times, and no one would listen to him, and no one believed him. So obviously, there's different scenarios out there. There's people who are going to say things that aren't true. We got to use discretion. But anytime a kid brings up anything like that, where they don't feel comfortable being around somebody, they don't have to say you don't have to say, black and white what's going on. But if they don't feel comfortable being around someone, even if it is your grandpa or your mom or your dad, whoever, take it in consideration.
Certainly. And, one of the things that you may recognize with your relationship with this child, your child, you may, I'll give you an example. I might think that I'm the right person to query my child on those type of troubles, but my wife will tell you that she's better equipped, and she's probably right. Okay. Because my kids, they look at me sometimes like you have no empathy. What they do know is if the house is on fire, I'm the guy going in to get them out. And I would let them paint my toenails, but if they want to come in and tell me how crappy their life is, I'm not really good at that.
Yeah.
Because I always say your worst day is the 3/4 of the world's best day. So suck it up.
I like that.
But when you look at these situations, it's very important. And I'm not a licensed therapist, okay? So I'm just giving you a parental advice. If you have that, and I don't want to call it an opportunity because that's not what it is, but that potential interaction where something's going on and you don't want to close them off. Think of the person. Like, I can tell you this, in my neighborhood, I've got some close friends, females, that I would put in front of my kids that would get the information we need in a very safe and, an environment that my kids would communicate. So we tend, and when I was a younger parent, I was much more knee-jerk reaction. I'm older and wiser and slower. So whenever those type of things pop up, now everything's drama with teenagers. So I've learned to just, all right, let's take a moment. Let me ask some questions. Oh, that's it. It's what I'm thinking. It's not how I'm acting. But it's important that moment in time that you want success in whatever you're trying to accomplish in that communication with a potential victim. Okay. And if you think that something illegal has happened, you need to get law enforcement. What you don't want to do is you don't want to try to mold the story, because that'll confuse the child. You want somebody who is qualified that can extract that information in a manner. And, Mitchell, you may be better off because you were in law enforcement. I may be kind of dancing around with reasonably poor or not the perfect advice. You may be better off in that. But I just know that when your kid comes in and expresses there's a problem, he's not going to run out and say, the neighbor is touching my pee-pee 3 times a day and I don't like it.
Right.
That's not how they communicate. So with what I've said, if you could take and kind of frame it up to be much more effective, I would be appreciative.
Yeah. So absolutely. Everybody has their strengths and weaknesses. I personally enjoyed doing interviews as a detective. I really thoroughly enjoyed interviewing the bad guy, especially like robbery suspects, and getting to the core of what happened and getting them to tell me their story, right? Now, when it came to children, I hated it. I absolutely hated, especially children that were victims. Obviously, I did my job, but I didn't enjoy it. And there was definitely people who were better fit to do it. So we actually, at the sheriff's office, they'd have different interview rooms. They got soft rooms, they got hard rooms, they got medium rooms, and they got child rooms. And they all have their different place. But for the children, they would actually put them in there. It was always a lady, and she would always, if she could, she would either get out of uniform or they would pick a lady who was not in uniform. no badge, no nothing scary. They'd put them in this child's room with toys and dolls, and a lot of times they'd use the dolls to figure out, instead of saying, "Hey, did he touch you at your pee-pee?" or whatever it is, they would use the doll to figure out where the person touched the kid or whatever else. And like I said, everyone has their strengths and weaknesses. And there were some ladies specifically at the sheriff's office that are just absolutely phenomenal with speaking to kids. And you can tell they truly care and they love what they do. But yeah, absolutely. If you're not the right person for that job, know your strengths and weaknesses, and use people that are better at what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, that's very good advice. I know. I always tell people when I offer advice, I tell them several things. First of all, my advice is free. You're not required to use it. But the second of all is I've made more than my fair share of mistakes as a parent. So I've retained those things. And so when I talk about stuff, it's not me telling people what to do. It's really me telling you what I've probably done wrong. Now, I don't like to say that. But like I said, I'm a kind of a scorched earth kind of guy. Craig is patient. He's a sniper, and I always told him, I said, if I was ever in the military, and he would tell you this because we played football together, and he says, "Yeah, you're a linebacker. Where does the destruction?" That's the kind of person I am. So if I would have taken the military path, I would not have been the sniper. I couldn't have been crawling around for days just waiting for one shot.
Yeah.
We would be hunting. When we were kids, we would go hunting. I'd be off in one area of the woods. He'd be off the other. And about an hour, you hear me squeeze off about 10 rounds. He's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm bored." "What'd you shoot?" "A tree." He's dead.
I feel that.
Older, I've got a lot more patience now, but when I was a kid, no. So yeah, I'm with you. Now, I will tell you this: if I were equipped to be effective, I could compartmentalize it. Now, I may, over time, be out in the woods because I run a lot and I run in the woods. I would probably break out weeping and give God a piece of my mind, thinking that I know what's best for him, but that's just how I communicate to my maker. But I think I can handle that conversation if I were equipped for it. I think I could say, okay, I can do this. I could not, I could stomach it. Let me put it that way. I could stomach it. Now, I may throw up later, but I wouldn't do it during that moment. I've learned to manage the crisis in the moment. I had a kid, my oldest, we had 2 ER visits. He was a skateboarder. And so I can tell you, there have been a couple of times after the ER visit, I felt like I ran a marathon. But during it, I was like, holding bandages and holding him down so they could straighten his leg out or put stitches in him. And it's like, no big deal. Afterwards, I was a hot mess. So I could do it during the moment, but I may have trouble afterwards, but I could deal with that. I could deal with that.
Yeah.
What else we got, Tyler?
No, that's pretty much it. Can we think of anything else?
I've probably said about as much as I can. I mean, I could keep talking forever, but I'm sure people are probably tired of listening to me flap my gums.
I'm trying to think. Do we have any more information that we got to get out? Besides Patreon, I know that's coming soon. We got it released. So if you do want to join our Patreon next week, I'm hoping to start uploading some videos. So that way the different higher tiers, they can start getting the benefits of that. Other than that, I really don't have anything. Do you guys?
Yeah, We're going to be looking, just to highlight, we're going to be looking for cameramen, camera persons. We're going to be looking for documenters. We're going to be looking for social media team leads.
Yes.
I can't call them investigators because they're really
Analyst.
I have a hard time with that word for some reason. We're going to be looking for a lead in the analyst position. These will be volunteers, and then building a team of analysts. So we're wanting to build teams. And the reason I say that is you might have 1 hour a day that you can contribute. So we're going to try to maximize that time from a volunteer perspective. So just keep an eye out. Tyler is going to be participating in getting those things, and we're going to be publishing. But what I want to do is I want to build a team. I want to get somebody at the top that can start managing and take over the whole process, because I can't, Craig can't. There's a limited number of us, so we have these great ideas, but I want to put them in place effectively. And so what I am looking for is a leadership role that can interface between us and then the people that are underneath you as volunteers.
Mm-hmm. You just tell me what you want me to do, I'll do it.
But hey, we're very grateful for our volunteers. We love our volunteers, and we apologize for. I know that some of you guys who've been with us and we've have been dormant. We are going to get you back into the fight, and I mean that, because for every one person we have on the front lines, we've got 10 people that we need to support them. It's very similar to the military. A lot of people don't realize it. They got the infantry. They've got supply chain. They've got all sorts of support. You got transport. You got all sorts of support. You got to feed those guys. I mean, there's plenty of people supporting them, and a lot of you have those skill sets that we want to capitalize. So we're looking for people that are eager, have the emotional, the physical and mental bandwidth, the desire. And if you get into it and you determine that you can't do it, we're not going to be upset with you. We're going to be grateful for the time that we get with you. But we appreciate your support. We love all you guys. We love your kids. We want your kids to grow up, and we want them to play sports and get skinned knees and, give their siblings noogies and, all the normal stuff, watch cartoons on Saturday and mow the lawn and learn how to do chores, all the stuff that they should be learning. So anyway.
Thanks, Newell.
All right. Well, thanks to everybody. I want to let's Tyler, make sure NFT Smurf, Mayfly, Newell for joining, Lycos,
Swifty, can't forget Swifty. Oh, wow.
Mitchell, Brian.
Everyone. Just everyone in here. Ducky.
I know I'm Ducky.
Hellbent, Great Dane. There's a lot of people in here that comes in here every week. Those types of people, thank you. We really do appreciate y'all being here. You guys are the real fighters out there. So, but yeah, I'm good here.
Well, thanks again. Keep us in your prayers. We'll keep you in our prayers. I always pray for wisdom, and I pray for healthy. I pray for good health. I pray for our first responders. I pray for our leadership. Whether you like them or not, they're there, and so I pray that they make decisions that are good for our country, good for our community, and then, whether I like them or not, I pray for those guys and gals. So, thanks everyone. I really appreciate you guys.